Well, good evening and welcome to round 5 the Crest Autosport Raceroom League's DTM 1992 Championship, sponsored by the GP Box, the online motorsport marketplace for motorsports, merchandise and memorabilia. Tonight's track is the Autodrom Most in one of the two car series that we're running, the 1992 DTMs here on Raceroom. We've got 3 rounds left, including this one. Introducing our partners to the series, GP Box, as we mentioned, as well as 603 Autosport and Track Race UK, our affiliates, and Freem UK, plus lovely stickers for providing the prizes for this league to these drivers. Tonight's the Autodrom Most circuit, as we mentioned, in the Northwest Republic of Czechia, formerly known as the Czech Republic. 90 kilometers northwest of the capital of Prague and only 25 kilometers southeast of the East German border. It's one of the 2 major motorsport facilities in Czechia, and often popular with bikes and trucks is this circuit, Autodrom Most. It's in the calendar because it's a pretty good track, but also Brno isn't featured, or Brno as some people call it, isn't featured in Raceroom, sadly. And the DTM 92s did take a visit to Brno in Czechia in the early 90s. So we're doing the equivalent here of the next best thing here at Most, which cost £4.29 on Raceroom. It's a fantastic track of 21 turns. It's a bit of an odd and unconventionally shaped track, but it is a roller coaster of sweeping corners. 12 corners to the right and 9 to the left these drivers are taking on today in these tricky tyres that they're handling this season. So tonight, plenty of racing on offer. 60 minutes of competitive driving. We'll start with qualifying in just under 10 minutes time, which will follow immediately by race 1, the 10-minute sprint race, where the grids are based on the qualifying results, of course. Race 2, Heat 2, will follow immediately after the first 10-minute sprint race by being another 10-minute sprint race, where the grids will be based on the results of Race 1, where the top 8 are reversed. So the person who finishes 8th in Race 1 will be on pole position for Race 2. We'll have a short break in between Race 2 and Race 3, where what will follow is the 30-minute feature race, where the grids are based on qualifying again. Where there's triple the duration in this race, there's also triple the points on offer for the drivers. So finishing first in the heats will score you 40 points. Finishing first in the feature race will score you 120 points. So plenty on offer and plenty to lose for the drivers throughout the night. We started off all them months ago. I've been saying weeks in recent races, but it's months ago on the 5th of January. The opening round in these 92 cars took place at Brands Hatch, followed by Brands Hatch again, but the opening round of the 2020s, then back to the 92s at Zandvoort, which followed with the 4th round of the overall season, the 2nd round of the 2020s at Oschersleben. Round 3 of each was at Zolder in the 92s, and then in the 2020s, Lausitzring, which saw out the first half of the season. We resumed the second half the other way around. The 2020s came first for round 4 at Salzburgring, which followed the next week by Norrisring, the only street circuit on the calendar. Last week was Hockenheim in the 2020s, where we saw plenty of drama, plenty of spins with drivers struggling to negotiate their tyres for the 30-minute race. But today is Most, which we might see relatively similar drama, with it being such a twisty and sweeping and bumpy track. Next week will be the finale of the 2020s, where it will all end at the Nürburgring GP circuit. And then in 3 weeks from today will be the finale of the whole thing, the finale of the 92s at the Nordschleife Green Hell circuit in Germany. Where else would it end? So here we go. One part of the housekeeping over, and we'll continue with the rest. Tonight you'll see the DTM 1992s on offer, where there are 5 manufacturers, 5 cars that drivers can choose from. The first of all being the Audi V8 DTM, one of the most popular cars of this category, the only 4-wheel drive car in the field. About a third of the field have chosen the Audi, so quite a popular choice as well, the only four-wheel drive car here. The BMW, the BMW M3 anyway, is one of the most popular cars in the world, not just of this category, as we can see one driving along in the background there. The Ford Mustang is not a very popular car in this series, but the most powerful with 520 brake horsepower. A tricky beast to tame, but get it right and it will reward you. The Mercedes was the actual winning car of the 1992 series, the 190e Evo 2 DTM car, which is one of the lightest cars, but also one of the most favoured in this series. And the Opel Omega, only driven by one driver in the 92s, and only driven by one driver tonight. But it is a fairly all-rounded car, quite a conventionally shaped touring car as well, but with midfield horsepower and slightly heavier on the weight compared to some of the other cars. So a little bit more housekeeping before we get underway. We'll go through the status of the championship going into tonight's 5th of 6 rounds. So 2 weeks ago, Jamie Dory, who has had sporadic appearances in this season, got pole position in qualifying in the Mustang on its favoured track at Nürburgring, and was followed in second place by Alex Foyle. One of the drivers who's been very, very good in qualifying this season has Alex Foyle. In fact, has had pole position twice in the 4 races we've had, and has started on the front row in 3 of them. So one to look out for in qualifying. And Alex Ward, newcomer to the series that week 2 weeks ago, he put it on 3rd. But the Heat 1 was won by Alex Foyle after Jamie Dory had drama early on in that race, and Alexander Jakobsen had a brilliant fight through to get himself into 2nd place in that race, and Albin Kjellgren rounded off the podium in 3rd place. Alex Foyle took another win in the heats as well, though, near maximum points for Alex Foyle last week, as he won race 2 and got 2nd in the feature race. Albin Kjellgren and Jakobsen with equally good heat 2 races, finishing 2nd and 3rd, but swapped around that time. But then the feature race was an epic battle between the two Alexes, Ward and Foyle, as they battled it out in the latter part of the races, but it was the Mustang who took victory in the feature race. The only driver to win a feature race in this 92 series, apart from William Foyle, who did not have a good meeting at all. In fact, he had a disconnection on his loading in to the feature race, which meant he did not score any points in that feature race last meeting. And Ola Jansson rounds off the podium in 3rd place, also in a Mustang. And this is what it did to the championship. It really closed it up, as only 5 points behind championship leaders still. William Foyle is Ola Jansson in the Mustang. Behind him in 3rd place is Albin Kjellgren, who's had a pretty consistent and well-driven season. Jeff Perkins follows him with Alex Foyle, who's had plenty of good results, but a lot of bad luck at the same time, in 5th place. And the championship also decides what ballast the drivers will bear on their cars for races 1 and 2 plus qualifying, of course, tonight, where William Foyle, being the championship leader, will carry the most ballast, and it drops down from 40 in multiples of 5. And the ballast for the feature race will be decided on qualifying. So qualifying, although it gets you your grid position for 2 of the races tonight, it also decides what ballast you have. We also have an overall championship, where it combines the points of both championships, and William Foyle is definitely leading the way in that, ahead of his brother Alex Foyle in 2nd, and Jeff Perkins not too far behind Alex in 3rd place. So there we go, there's the housekeeping over and done with, and we can actually focus on the racing. And weirdly enough, good timing from myself, qualifying is coming up in just half a minute's time. But just to let you know what's happening in the practice session at the moment, William Foyle is the quickest man on track, but only 0.03 of a second ahead of Stefan Navalov, or Heike Navalov as he's displayed in the standings here. Not much at all, but only 22 thousandths ahead of 3rd place Alex Foyle, so it's very, very close on what is a very difficult track, a roller coaster of a circuit, 21 turns as we mentioned earlier. So plenty of corners to gain and lose, and to see times so close up there is quite impressive. And 3 different manufacturers they were, by the way. There was Mercedes up top, BMW 2nd, and Audi in 3rd, which is great to see. So we're about to tick over into qualifying, And we do right now. Qualifying begins now. 10 minutes for the drivers to set as good a lap time as they can. As the drivers leave the pits right now, we are looking at the Mustang of Jamie Dory, I believe that is. Yes, it is. Welcome back to him, who had his second race of the season at Norrisring, and William Foyle decided to take the chicane rather than go through the Monza-shaped chicane at turn 1 and 2. Got a feeling that put him much further back in the order, which might have helped him get a bit of slipstream ahead of him. But we'll go on board with a lap with William Foyle, as he was quickest in practice and he is championship leader, so he is the best example to follow from. But do look out for Heike Navalov as well in this practice session, as he's been very, very quick all season. Been the quickest BMW driver. And Alex Foyle has been brilliant in all the qualifying sessions. The Audi is definitely one of the best when it comes to one lap pace. But when it comes to the longer races, i.e. the feature race, 30 minutes long, it does struggle. It does struggle as it's burning through all 4 of its tyres, whereas the rear-wheel drive cars burn through the rears more than they do the fronts. Looking back to the championship leader, William Foyle. Championship leader riding with the championship winning car, the Mercedes of the real life series, and he's got the Opel ahead of him of Øyvind Andersen, and you'll probably see William Foyle back off a little bit here to make sure he has a lot of space ahead of him. A lot of drivers doing that, flashing his lights to say get a move on, guys. But we will go on board with William Foyle for a lap of Autodrom Most, and around the final corner we go. No names to these corners, all numbers, and out of the final corner he goes, slightly descending over the crest and down towards, as we said, the Monza-shaped chicane of turns 1 and 2. Braking just before the 100 metre sign. Into turn 1 goes. He might have broke too late there. No, he hasn't. He just turned it in a bit earlier. Into turn 2 he goes. Don't cut it too much. The curb will kick you up in the air. Out of the corner he goes. Round turn 3 now. Just a slight kink to the right, and then a long left-hander round turn 4 now. Flat out all the way down here as we start to come down the hill into turns 5 and 6. 6 is the left-hander here, then straight into the right-hander of turn 7, taking plenty of the curb on the inside there. A small kink to the right, another to the left, and now turn 10 is the long right-hander here. Kicking the back end out a little bit and taking a late apex there is William Foyle. At the end of sector 1 here, we now start sector 2. Down the hill we go into what is the best sector, I'd say, in Raceroom. Long right-hander here, take that inside sausage curb, plenty of outer area to run off onto. Up towards the Meritor Bridge, underneath that for this right-hander, he's catching up with Øyvind Andersen. It might be detrimenting his lap a little bit. Now another long left-hander, hugging tight on the apex, a little bit of kick of the rear end, and a late apex for this corner here, which was turn 18. Now through turn 19 he's caught up to Øyvind Andersen. He'll want to get past him before the lap ends, but Øyvind's not letting him through. Turn 20, oh, and it's a nudge up the rear from William Foyle. We couldn't get a real good grasp of the final sector here, and he might have been better off aborting that lap, but he was purple in the second sector. Across the line he goes to complete that lap, and it won't be pole position, though it probably could have been, but provisionally 4th at the moment for William Foyle. Across the line goes Ola Jansson. 2nd in the championship is this man from Sweden. 6th place in the standings at the moment. It's Heike Navalov who is up top at the moment, battling with a Mercedes right behind him there. I think that is Øyvind Andersen right behind him there. But Heike Navalov top of the standings at the moment with a 39.1, which is an impressive lap time. Tonga Guardia slots himself into 7th, one of our 2 South American residents here today. The second being Gabriel Lopez in the Audi there, completing his opening lap very shortly. On board with watching Jeff Perkis right now as he starts sector 2. Personal best in sector 1, 3rd place in the standings at the moment. As we said, the Audi is very good at 1 lap sprints. Petter Nystrom puts himself into 14th place. Petter, I believe, missed Norrisring, so he'll be back to get his points back. Ola Jansson, personal best in sector 1. How will sector 2 do for him? But the thing is, the Mustang, it was brilliant at Norrisring as there weren't many corners. and it was largely a circuit based on power, which the Mustang has the most of, being 520 brake horsepower. This is a track it probably doesn't suit as much because it's less dependent on brake horsepower, more depending on corner stability. But we'll see how Ola Jansson and the other Mustang driver in the field, Jamie Dory, will get on. And across the line goes Jansson, and it is a personal best time. That puts him up into 4th place. Still over half a second off the lead, but not bad grid position nonetheless for Ola Jansson. Gabriel Lopez on a personal best in Sector 1, 16th at the moment for the Colombian driver. Through Sector 2 he goes. In the Frank Bieler livery is Mr. Lopez. Andy Withers, welcome back to him, who missed out at Norris Ring. He puts himself 10th at the moment with a gaggle of Audis around him. It's hard to tell who's who out of those Audis, and wide at the back there, that's Jürgen Madsby Pedersen, I believe, getting out of the way of the Audis then. He's 16th at the moment. Not many drivers on fast splits at the moment, apart from Jamie Dory, sets a personal best in Sector 1 and goes wide. That'll surely invalidate his lap, and Jamie Dory retires to the pits for now. Roll TK personal best in both sectors will cross the line in just a few seconds now. Personal best lap puts him into 17th place. The Mercedes driver, William Foyle, is on a purple first sector though, 6th at the moment, and we saw in practice he definitely got the potential to get it higher up the order. Much closer to the time of Navalov, whose opening time was a blistering time, you've got to say. With only 3 minutes to go, there's not much time for these drivers to get themselves further up, and another outright best in Sector 2. Only 2 corners to go for William Foyle. Could he get it onto pole position? Could he get it into the 38? It's a big slip up coming out of turn 20 there. Into turn 21 we go. He might still get pole position despite that small mistake. Let's see what happens. Coming across the line very shortly, William Foyle, 5th at the moment, takes 3rd place. He dropped so much time on that final sector, I think, and that is 3rd for him, just behind his brother, but there's still time for him to set another lap. Jeff Perkis personal best in Sector 1, still nowhere near the pace of the front 3. The only one at the moment on a faster sector, so drivers got, if they cross the line in the next 30 seconds, they will get another lap. But Jeff Perkis here on a personal best in Sector 2 as well. This is looking pretty good for Jeff Perkis. Might this improve his position? We'll find out. Into turn 20. 21. He's got the Mercedes of, I think that wasn't William Foyle. I think that was Roll TK. Would definitely have got in the way of him there, but that would have compromised Jeff's time. This is the problem with Most. It is so narrow and so many corners. It's tricky to overtake on this track as well. That's what the drivers are going to struggle with. That keeps Jeff in 4th at the moment. Oyvind Andersen, the only Opel driver in the field. He's got Ola Jansson behind him in the Mustang, but Oyvind Andersen on a personal best as it stands. William Foyle has set a purple first sector again, by the way. We'll check on him very shortly. And it is another personal best for Oyvind Andersen, but that keeps him 13th at the moment, and that'll be it for the Norwegian. Alexander Foyle, a outright best, second sector. Excuse me for fluffing my words up there, but can Alex Foyle nick pole in the dying moments? Oh, and that might not have done it. That might have invalidated his lap. It's certainly lost him time across the line. It will not do it. It's a 39.5. That will keep him 2nd place. Drivers still out there. William Foyle has resorted back to the pits. Foyle is going back to the pits, so that could be it. Navalov might be on pole position unless Jeff Perkis has anything to say about it. You've got to say no at this point, as he is nearing the end of the lap, and he's looking nowhere near outright best. So it could well be, in fact it might still be, Navalov on pole position for the first time this season. And there we go, your classified results of today's qualifying. Heike Navalov takes pole position and will take pole position for Heat 1 and the feature race coming up later. Alexander Foyle takes second place, still maintaining his impressive record of top 3 qualifying positions. William Foyle in third place with Jeff Perkins alongside him in fourth. Ola Jansson fifth and Jamie Dory in sixth, making it a Mustang third row lockout. And we'll get those results back up on the screen for you. This is just what Raceroom does to us. There we go. So, carrying on from where we were, 7th is Ian Deeney, and alongside him, another Mercedes of Tonga Guardia. Scott McLean in 9th with Alexander Jakobsen in 10th. Andy Withers will start 11th with Tor Øyvind Andersen in 12th. The only Opel of the field, Øyvind Andersen in 13th. Cameron McPhail in 14th. Petter Nyström will start 15th. With Royal TK in 16th. Jürgen Masby Pedersen 17th, Gabriel Lopez in 18th, and Ben Sisko rounding out in 19th. So there we go, that is qualifying over and done with, and as we mentioned, we'll just flick those back up for you. This will also be the starting order of the feature race later on in the night. It will also be the decider in how much ballast the drivers carry. So Heike Navalov will carry 40 kilos of ballast for the feature race, with Alex Foyle carrying 35. 30 kilos will be carried by William Foyle in the feature race, with 25 going to Jeff Perkins, 20 kilos going to Ola Jansson, 15 kilos to Jamie Dory, 10 kilos to Ian Deeney, and 5 kilos to Tonga Guardia. And that is all for the feature race later on in the night. So drivers out on the track getting a little bit of warm-up before we start today's sprint races. 2 10-minute races following in quick succession from one another. As we went through the grids there, that is the deciding grid for the sprint race, which is following now in a few seconds. That was the most Welsh dialect I've ever said to you. Now in a few seconds. But remember, the top 8 finishers of the first sprint race will be reversed to form the starting grid for race 2. Plenty to consider in this series for these drivers, but all these drivers care about is just getting as high up as they can. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. So here we go. Drivers will line up on the grid, ready for round 5 here at Autodrom Most in Czechia. Round 5 of the Crest Autosport Raceroom League's DTM 92 Championship. Commentator myself, Alex Everett of Crest Autosport. Do give the description a bit of a look in these videos to check out our links for our sponsors and affiliates. They help us go racing, help us bring this entertainment to you, so a big thank you to all of them. The GP Box, Track Racer UK, 63 Autosport, and of course Freem UK and Lovely Stickers, which have donated prizes to the leagues, which these drivers are battling for, of course. And there we go, drivers have lined up on the grid. That is Heike Navalov on pole position. Alongside him is Alex Foyle. Lights are red. Away we go, brilliant start for the Audis, obviously, as they have done all season. Alex Foyle gets himself into the lead, Navalov drops down to second, and down towards turn 1 we go. Alex Foyle will go into turn 1 with no one alongside him. Let's see if all these drivers take it nice and easy through the chicane. By the looks of it, they are very sensible on this very difficult Monza-esque chicane. This is Gabriel Lopez on the outside of Roll TK. William Foyle has had a terrible start. He's down to 14th at the moment, but out in front it is the Audi of Alexander Foyle. Heike Navalov only drops 1 position. And that is Jeff Perkins we're on board with. Scott McLean with a brilliant opening lap so far. He's up to 4th place in the Audi, and the Mustang following behind of Jamie Dory there. William Foyle, let's keep an eye on him. He's our championship leader all the way down to 13th from 4th on the grid. No one had a stop and go, so I wonder what happened to him. He must have just failed the start procedure that he usually goes through, but we'll find out later on what happened to him. Jeff Perkis latching onto the back of Navalov real early on here. The Audi, as we said, is real good in the sprint races. Where it lets itself down is the feature races. So the Audis of all season have wanted to get as good as they can in the sprint races to make up for the detriment they have in the features. Jeff Perkis has been one of the drivers that's actually risked pitting to take on new tyres in order to keep the car going to the end, but has the risk is he's lost a lot of positions in the feature race. In fact, I don't think he's finished in the top 3 of any of the sprint races this season. He hasn't. He's finished no higher than 9th, which is rather disappointing for Jeff Perkis, we've got to be honest. Close racing going on further back. This is Tonga Guardia and Andy Withers having it out, and that is Jamie Dory ahead of them in the black Mustang as well. Through the chicane they go. Tonga Guardia with a very late entry into the final part of the chicane and lost a little bit of time. And back there, that was a slow running Gabriel Lopez, I think, reversing to get back on the track. He may as well cut the track through the tyres there, but hey ho, such is. But back with the battle for the lead now, I'd say, as Navalov is catching up onto Alex Foyle and taking a much different line through the hairpin. There is Navalov. But look at this exit from Jeff Perkis. He might be able to get himself alongside. Coming down the hill here. Will there be enough time to get alongside? No, there probably isn't. He backs out and gets back behind of the BMW. Jamie Dory real close to Andy Withers ahead of him, who's found his way past him at some point on this lap. And that's Tonga Guardia right behind in 7th place as well. Tonga Guardia's got to give him a bit of credit, as I haven't mentioned it much. In order to race in this series, he has to rush home from work to quickly get on the sim and take part in this series, so bravo to him. Just keeping an eye on the front. It's still fairly dispersed at the front there. Jakobsen might be joining the party here ahead of him with a battle amongst the 3 cars, but at the moment Jakobsen's in 8th place, which qualifies him pole position for the race later on. And we've got to look back here as William Foyle is battling intensely with Tor Øyvind Andersen to get back into the top 10, missing a lot of positions, dropping a lot of points is William Foyle here as he makes his way back up the order. Will he get past the fellow Mercedes going into the chicane? Brakes much later and gets ahead of him. It's a slowdown penalty for Navalov. Might he be able to serve it passively just driving through these slow corners? He might. But he's still just over half a second behind Alex Foyle, and Perkis has seemed to have dropped off a little bit from him. The battle for 5th rages on. This is Dory right behind Withers. It's a next-gen admin versus a Crest Autosport admin, the battle of the admins. And ahead of Andy Withers, the Assetto Corsa Crest Autosport admin, so this is definitely where the admins want to be right now. Jakobsen, keeping an eye on him right behind Tonga Guardia, who had a very squirrely exit from turn 13, I think it was there. And Jakobsen's alongside. Going into the right-hander, tucks back in behind the Mercedes, tries an undercut, but there's a left-hander coming up here. He will try another undercut. He might be able to get a good run coming out of turn 18. Up the hill we go, and it's not quite the good run that he wanted. Jamie Dory still trying to find a way past Andy Withers. It is a very difficult track to overtake on. Is Autodrom Most. We got Cameron McPhail off in the final sector there. It might have been a spin for him. Sadly, we can't get replays on Raceroom. It's something we desperately need to bring entertainment and to catch up on things we might miss. But this is bunched up a little bit. Oh, and look at that. A brilliant run for Jeff Perkis coming out of the chicane. Going through turns 3 and 4 we go now. And that might have got him in front of Navalov. If the camera changes, please. There we go, he's got himself ahead of the Swedish driver of Navalov, Jeff Perkis, into 2nd place. Dory still on the back of Withers, who's got McLean in front of him. And that Audi is just able to get out of the corners so much easier than the very unstable Mustang. But the Mustang has so much power that it makes up for it once the car has straightened up. Down the hill into sector 2. Oh, and that's a spin for Roll TK. For a minute I thought that was William Foyle, but Roll TK powered down a bit too early, spun it coming out of the hairpin. But back with the battle for fourth, and Andy Withers has caught up to Scott McLean. And Scott McLean having a much cleaner run through turn 18 there. Scott McLean with a brilliant start, and I'm going to have to remind myself with popping these standings up here. Yeah, brilliant start, got himself from 9th to 4th within half a lap. I mean, the Audi is very, very good at starting with its four-wheel drive differential. But still, that's plenty of positions to gain on such a tricky track. Battling further on down the field, this is Petter Nystrom versus Ben Sisko. It's about 14th. Nystrom trying to find the inside going into the chicane on Tennant. Frank Tennant, aka Ben Sisko. And the Audi much later on the brakes than the BMW. And we'll resume with this battle up here. And look, Jamie Dory was very late on the brakes going into the chicane there. Managed to get away with it. Slight tap of the brakes coming out of the corner just to keep the car in a straight line. We'll look to William Foyle as well, as he's catching up to this battle here and taking a little bit of a lunge towards Alexander Jakobsen there. William Foyle back into the top 10 with passing Øyvind Andersen earlier. Got past Jansson as well to 9th. And is slowly making his way up towards that battle for 4th. But there's not much time remaining. Not much time at all. And look at that, Jamie Dory's found his way past Andy Withers somehow. We missed that looking at William Foyle. But he's got his way into 5th place and is now going to try on Scott McLean. Jamie Dory having a brilliant latter part of the race here, where the Audi start to drop off the pace around about now. They have about 8 minutes of optimal pace, and then it just slowly falls off the cliff, does the Audi. Into turns 20 and 21. Alex Foyle starts what I presume will be his final lap. 1.5 seconds clear of Jeff Perkis. It could be another heat win for Alex Foyle, who has won the most this season. Oh, and that's a spin for Jakobsen. Jakobsen, who was battling for the top 8, spins in 10th there, and he's going to have to spin it around rather sharpish to get a decent position. 13th at the moment for him. It's the battle for 4th still. That's Tonga Guardia skipping across the curbs, trying to get the most of what he can out of that Mercedes. Jamie Dory in 5th place here. Used the pole sitter at Norris Ring 2 weeks ago. But Scott McLean got it all done towards the start of this race. In fact, on the very first lap. And so far, he's looking good to keep it, unless anything can happen here. Andy Withers is not giving up though. He lost that position a lap ago. He's going to try again. Jamie Dory is so powerful coming out of the corners. Or on the straight, should I say. This is where he gains on the Audi. Look at him just reel in that Audi coming up the hill here. He'll go for the move going into turn 14. Up the inside he goes. He's made it through, but will he hang on to it? He's hit the grass here. Still has the inside. Look at this. Tonga Guardia is trying to move on Andy Withers as well. And I think Jamie Dory has taken the position, and Tonga Guardia couldn't quite get around Andy Withers. But Jamie Dory takes 4th, but we must switch to our race leader and our probable and definite race winner. This is Alex Foyle, who will come across the line to win race 1 here. Jeff Perkins crossed the line in 2nd. There's drama going on further back. Navalov is 3rd. Jamie Dory, he'll cross the line to finish 4th with a brilliant final 2 laps from him. Scott McLean 5th. 6th is Andy Withers. Tonga Guardia got 7th in the end. And William Foyle, on the dying stage of that race, got himself into 8th place. And that will be pole position for the 2nd sprint race for William Foyle, our championship leader, who was leading the championship by only 5 points ahead of 9th place sitter Ola Jansson, who will start 9th. So he'll be a long way behind William Foyle on the grid for this next race coming up. What an exciting race that was. The battle for 4th eventually become between 5 or 6 cars. Brilliant to see. Hopefully more of that in the next few races. But your race winner, we didn't give him much of a mention, but it was Alex Foyle. Took it on the start with the Audi's ability to get off the line and hung on to it to the end. So race 2 will come up very, very shortly once this session concludes. Hopefully as exciting a race as it was just then. So a little bit of facts before we go into the second race. Every time Alex Foyle has won Heat 1, he's won Heat 2. We'll go back onto that fact in just a short while. Alex Foyle wins Heat 1 here at Most with Jeff Perkins in second. Navalov takes third with Jamie Dory in fourth. Scott McLean takes fifth with Andy Withers sixth. Tonga Guardia seventh, and will start on the front row alongside pole sitter for race 2, William Foyle. But yes, Alex Foyle, our race winner in race 1. Whenever he's won Heat 1 in this 92 series, he's also won Heat 2. So he'll definitely be one to look out for. He's won 7 heats this season, but hasn't won a feature race. That's what's been letting him down this season, has Mr. Foyle. But he has without doubt been one of the quickest. We're starting third, or qualifying in the top 3 in every single race so far this season, and has only finished off the podium 5 times, and one of them he didn't start and one of them he didn't finish. Yeah, that's right, yeah. So very, very impressive record from Alex Foyle, but it's still been William Foyle leading the championship into today. William Foyle has been the master of the feature race, and the only one he hasn't won yet this season in the 92s was at Norris Ring, where he actually had a disconnection. So what could have been for him? But he'll be looking to get back on that record. Winner of the feature race in Brands Hatch, Zandvoort and Zolder. Will it be Most in the feature race? But starting on pole for the sprint race here, he hasn't won a heat in the 92s yet this season, so that might be something you want to tick off his list. But his championship rival coming into today was Ola Jansson. It might not be coming out of today with drop rounds taking effect, where that is your worst round zeroed. Ola Jansson was only 5 points behind him coming into today, and a little bit of a buffer between William Foyle and Ola Jansson coming out of that race. Probably only about 7 points now, the gap, relative to the total standings, but that will certainly make William Foyle a little bit more comfortable. So we'll ease into race 2 very, very shortly, which is another 10-minute sprint race. Here we go, the drivers will line up on the grid, ready for what's going to be Heat 2 of round 5 of the Crest Autosport Raceroom League's DTM 92 Championship. The 19 drivers line up on the grid here in Czechia. The last of the non-German rounds of the championship. We'll be back in Germany next week for the Nürburgring of the 2020s. But today we're here at Most, and it's William Foyle on pole position for race 2 here at Most. Lights are red. Away we go, and it's another lightning start for the Audis. William Foyle just a sitting duck to them, and away go the Audis, cruising out to the front. That's Andy Withers in the lead there, and William Foyle dropping dramatically behind these Audis here. And look at that, that's Jamie Dory, who's gone off the track under braking into turn 1. But we've got to keep an eye on all these drivers. Look at that, that is William Foyle stuck in the middle of all of these Audis here. He's in third place at the moment, but out in front, Andy Withers with a lightning start, as did Scott McLean. Gets themselves into the lead early on in this race. William Foyle has now got to play catch up in third here. He has got the runner-up and race winner right behind him, Jeff Perkins and Alex Foyle. Into the hairpin we go, on board with Alex Foyle, the race 1 winner.
Oh, very wide coming out the hairpin there. He'll have Navalov behind him looking to get back past him. Navalov, who started 6th, is still in 6th. Jamie Dory, who lost out at the start there, ended up on the grass. There's a little bit of contact between some drivers going into the chicane. It was a little hard to see from our angle, but he ended up being the worst off from that, dropping all the way down the order. And that's a spin from, that's the Opel of Oyvind Andersen, and he's recovering to get back on the track there. The only Opel in the field. Way down already on this opening lap. Tonga Guardia there in 7th place, started 2nd, dropped all the way down, fell prey to the quick off the line Audis. And at the end of lap 1, it is Andy Withers out in front ahead of Scott McLean. 3rd place is William Foyle. It's not the end of the world for him just yet, but he's got to stay ahead of Jeff Perkins and Alex Foyle. He was quickest in practice, he knows he's got the pace, but he's got to get back up with those Audis. Right behind Scott McLean under braking going into turn 1. The Monza look-alike of the opening chicane there. Down the hill into the bottom left section of the circuit. Andy Withers and Scott McLean been a bit quiet. They haven't really been towards the top yet this season, but an opportunistic start for them in the four-wheel drive machines have got them up to the front here, but they have got to contend with the championship protagonists that are William Foyle, Jeff Perkins and Alex Foyle. Oh, and that's a spin for Roald TK yet again in that hairpin. He just can't seem to get it right today, can Roald TK, and he'll recover with the struggling Oyvind Andersen in the Opel. And Tonga Guardia on the inside, nearly of Heike Navalov, not enough to get alongside him fully, but following so close behind the BMW is the Argentinian driver. Vitellares, as he likes to call himself. I think that's after his favourite football team. Up the hill and towards the front here, it is quite close between all these cars. 2 Audis, a Mercedes and another 2 Audis. I wonder if William Foyle regrets his car decision right now, but he's our leader of the championship, so he's doing something right as the Audis pull away on the straights here. Coming down to turn 1, Jeff Perkins is on the inside of William Foyle, but William Foyle much later on the brakes. Oh, and Alex Foyle trying to get around the outside of Jeff Perkins there. It's a slow down penalty for Andy Withers. Cutting the chicane a little bit too much, and Alex Foyle managed to recover and stay in 5th place. Dropped off a little bit, but look at all these cars bunched up together. I'm sure Alex Foyle will catch up very, very soon. Coming into the hairpin now. Oh, and that's a spin for Jürgen Mansby Pedersen coming out of the chicane. There's quite a few of them happening today, those spins. Scott McLean bunching up the crowd here. Look at that, that's Alex Foyle on the inside of Jeff Perkins. What a move that was. Into 4th place he goes, and Jeff Perkins trying to get him back. No, Foyle gets himself into 4th ahead of Perkins. And now can pounce on his brother ahead of him. William Foyle in the Mercedes. Back on board with the Mercedes. As he gets his head down, aims that Mercedes triangle towards the Audi ahead of him. To the sweeping left and right handers here at Most. One of the, as I said earlier, one of the best sectors on Raceroom. Any car you drive, it's brilliant along that section. And here we go up towards turns 20 and 21. Alex Foyle trying to have a bit of a dive on William Foyle ahead of him, but could not make it. That Mercedes can be so late on the brakes. Oh, and it's bunched up real nice between 2nd, 3rd and 4th here as we come down. Let's get a better angle of these drivers coming down. William Foyle breaking into the chicane. Scott McLean guarding the inside, but look at that, William Foyle goes around the outside of turn 1. Brilliant move from William Foyle, into 2nd place he goes. Oh, and it's all going sideways for Alex Foyle there, but gets away with it. Scott McLean drops to 3rd, William Foyle up to 2nd, and will now make his way towards Andy Withers in 1st place. This is the view from Scott McLean with William Foyle ahead of him. Oh, William pushed a bit hard going to the chicane there. He's got to be real careful. He just about keeps hold of that Mercedes, does William Foyle. McLean guarding the inside from Alex Foyle. He probably saw what Alex did to Jeff Perkins earlier on, and wide goes Scott. Alex is alongside him now, coming down the hill. Alex trying to get himself into 4th place, and Jamie Dory takes a spin at the hairpin there. He was in 12th. He'll now drop down the order. And he recovers back onto the hairpin flamboyantly. But a bad race for Jamie Dory from start to so far. William Foyle has broken away from the Audis here and now towards Andy Withers. Alex Foyle will try to get past McLean as quickly as possible so he can catch up with his brother. And wide goes Alex. He'll take some of the gravel, and that will definitely put dirt on his tyres and will compromise his grip for the next couple of corners. Down to 6th he goes, and he might lose more. Oh, and William Foyle at the inside of Andy Withers into turn 20, but Withers hangs on to it. Coming into the final corner now, and William Foyle is determined to get that first place back after the terrible start they had. Unsurprisingly though, as the Audis are so good at getting away off the line. But this is the tortoise and the hare moment, where the hare will take the lead early on. The tortoise will come back them and up the inside going into the chicane. What a move from William Foyle. He's taken the lead going into turn 1 here at Most. And look at this, Heike Navaluf's having a go. He's trying his way alongside Jeff Perkins, the man he was battling in race 1 earlier on. Slightly behind coming into the chicane here. Can he stay alongside Jeff coming around the corner? No, he can't. He has to tuck back in behind. Oh, Jeff Perkins getting a big drift coming out of that right-hander there. Into the hairpin he goes. He's still got Scott McLean in front of him. Roll TK, another spin for him, sadly. That's coming out of the first chicane, so it happened to Jürgen earlier. It happened to him, and Jürgen sadly out of this race. And this is a bit of a crocodile of cars, as Tonga Guardia is on the back of this trail here, right behind Alex Foyle. Ola Jansson's back there in 8th, trying to catch up. William Foyle pulling away in the lead there. We saw from practice he's one of the fastest cars in the field, one of the fastest drivers, should I say, in the field. And he's at the moment able to pull away from Andy Withers, who took that early lead. And look at that! Heike Navaluf has spun. I think that was contact from Alex Foyle, and it must have been, as Alex Foyle is waiting for him. Oh, and they're holding up a lot of cars here. One of them being Ian Deeney. Oh, Ian Deeney. If he had any more luck, he'd have none at all. Collected there. No fault of his own, but it was Alex Foyle trying to let back past Heike Navaluf. Probably wasn't the best area of the track to do so. Got to respect one part and not the other, maybe. But that promotes Jansson to 6th. That promotes Guardia to 5th. And 7th for Alexander Jakobsen. But what could have been a double heat win maybe for Alex Foyle, but certainly off the cards at this point. But William Foyle, I think he might be on his final lap here. Leading out in front, nearly 2 seconds clear of Andy Withers. And something's happened to Scott McLean. He's now dropped to 5th, and he will drop even further down. Down to 6th goes Scott McLean. Something happened to him. He's dropped many positions now on this lap. But we'll resume with Alex Foyle, who's down to 10th behind Ian Deeney now. Had to back off a little bit just to make sure he gets around the corner without bumping Ian Deeney. He'll feel there's a bit of a target on his back, will Alex Foyle, after the incident with Navaluf, compromising his race. Not able to get past the Mercedes driver, but on his final stretch, the final 2 corners of the circuit now, William Foyle, an emphatic win here. Through the final 2 corners, he started pole position, lost the lead down to 3rd place and nearly more. He was so close to dropping more, but hung on to it hard, and he'll come through for his first sprint race win of this 92 season. Would you believe? The championship leader comes through and extends his championship lead undoubtedly tonight in this second race here. Andy Withers of a brilliant show in 2nd place here. That's his 3rd podium of the season, I believe, for Andy Withers. If only he'd raced the whole season, he might have been up there in the running for the top 5 even. Jeff Perkins takes 3rd place, a good consistent line of results so far for him tonight. Tonga Guardia, I think that might be his best result of the season. No, it's equalled his best result of the season. It was the feature race in Brands Hatch. He got 4th place here at Most today. Still looking for that podium is Guardia, but Jansson second in the championship going into tonight takes 5th. Scott McLean with a rusty final lap. 6th place for him is all he could manage, but it was an exciting race from him there today. Alexander Jakobsen in 7th, with Heike Navalov in 8th. And this is what Raceroom does to us. But your race winner, William Foyle. And as we mentioned, the feature race is coming up very, very shortly in approximately 15 minutes time as we tick over into that 30-minute feature race. We'll be going away for a quick break. We'll be back very, very shortly. Don't go away, ladies and gentlemen. The GP Box is an online marketplace for motorsports merchandise and memorabilia. Browse for a whole range of motorsports products in all forms of motorsport. Take Formula 1 for example. There is a whole section dedicated to Formula 1 products from your favourite drivers, cars, teams or tracks from all eras of Formula 1. There are more series available, including WRC if you are a rally fan. You can even search for your favourite form of motorsport to see what products they have in your favourite forms of motorsport. Or, if yourself are a retailer in motorsport, you could set up your own shop within the GP Box to open up your products to a much bigger motorsport audience. Find out more at thegpbox.com. Welcome back to the Crest Autosport Raceroom League's DTM 92 Championship. Here, round 5 at Autodrom Most. The league is sponsored by the GP Box, the online motorsport marketplace for motorsports merchandise and memorabilia. And a big thank you to our other sponsors and affiliates, Track Racer UK for all your sim racing needs, as well as 603 Autosport of digital innovations. Prize givers for this league are Freem UK and lovely stickers. Today is the Autodrom Most circuit in Czechia, as we mentioned. Plenty of drama beholden us in the first 2 races of the night. 21 turns on this circuit, which is made for very, very, very difficult overtaking opportunities for the drivers, and plenty of tyre burning we may see in the feature race coming up in just a few moments time. As we mentioned, 30-minute feature race where the grids are based on qualifying earlier. We'll remind you of the grid just in a moment's time. But 30-minute feature race, which is triple the duration of what we've seen so far tonight, where it also means triple points for the drivers.
So here we go. Very soon we'll be into the nitty-gritty of the feature race as the sun sets here in Czechia. I'm sure the weather here in virtual format is much better than that of Czechia right now in the middle of March. I imagine it's pretty cold there at the moment. But it's a beautiful sunset over the circuit right now. And as we mentioned, a feature race coming up very, very shortly. We'll go over the grids as it'll appear. So the qualifying results from earlier decide the grid for the feature race. Heike Navalov will be on pole position for a second attempt at starting from the front, with Alexander Foyle, who took the lead early on, remember, in race 1 earlier from second place. So look out for him in this race here. William Foyle in third, who was our race 2 winner. Certainly look out for him, as he's been the master of the feature races this season, and particularly in these 92s, having only not finished first in one feature race yet this season. Jeff Perkins has been on fire tonight with 2 podium finishes. He starts 4th. Ola Jansson has had a pretty promising night, pretty quiet but promising still. He'll start 5th alongside fellow Mustang driver Jamie Dory, who had a good opening race of the night but a bad second race of the night. He'll start 6th. Ian Deeney in 7th, with Tonga Guardia, who's having a good night, in 8th place. Scott McLean, who's had an impressive showing in both races tonight, starts 9th. 10th will be Alexander Jakobsen. Andy Withers will start 11th. Tor Oyvind Anderson will start 12th. 13th for the Opel of Oyvind Anderson, who had a bit of dramas in the second race. He'll start 13th. Cameron McPhail, who's been a bit quiet tonight, he'll start 14th. Per Nyström in 15th. Roll TK 16th. Jürgen Madsby Pedersen in 17th. Gabriel Lopez in 18th. Ben Sisko will start in 19th. So that's the grid for this feature race coming up very, very shortly. And as we mentioned earlier, triple the duration of this feature race. We haven't got the points format, I'm afraid, for you. I forgot to load it. I was meant to earlier and I forgot to. Okay, so if you win the heats, you score 40 points and it drops by 2 per position. But it's triple all of them points for the feature races. I keep mentioning, as you're probably sick of me mentioning. So it's 120 points on offer for the drivers for winning the feature race. So it does contribute a lot to your championship in this series. So it is vitally important. But we'll move on to something a little bit different. We've got a little bit of housekeeping to do before the feature race gets underway, because we didn't have a chance to do it earlier. But here on Crest Autosport, we are currently hosting the Tuesday night DTM races, and Tuesday night is Raceroom days on Raceroom. We might open more leagues in the future, but at the moment it's just Tuesday nights. But we've got a few rounds left of this season, which will be Nürburgring next week, and then in 3 weeks' time it will be the final round of the overall and the 92s at the Nordschleife, taking place on the 6th of April. It was going to be the 30th of March, but it's my girlfriend's birthday, so I had to cancel it. Hey ho, moving on. Yeah, in late April and early May, we've got the big one here. Last year hosted by Exiled, this year hosted by Crest Autosport, the Spa 50 event, which is a TCR endurance, 50 laps of Spa in as many as 80 different cars on the TCR roster for Raceroom, where it will be broadcast live on all these channels, of course, by myself, and on lead comms, my good friend Jake Sperry. And the prizes will be provided by Uncle Luke's, and potentially more prizes coming up to be announced soon. But do join our Facebook group. Crest Autosport Raceroom Leagues, to enter or just follow this event, as well as an upcoming season, the WTCR League. We have the Tour of Europe. 12 rounds, starting in Portugal, ending in Germany. We go to Portimao, Aragon, Paul Ricard, Imola, Hungaroring, Most, where we are today, Silverstone, Spa-Francorchamps, Zandvoort, Anderstorp, the Red Bull Ring, Spielberg, and Hockenheim at the end. What a tour of Europe that is. The only track it's missing from the European roster, is the country list anyway, is Slovakia Ring, which is a shame. But that's coming up in mid-May. And entries will open for that very soon. Again, join our Facebook group to find out about that. So we've still got a bit of time before
race 3, the feature race, gets underway. I'm just looking at the comments. Looking forward to the Dory debrief from Lee Horn. Yeah, race 2, he might have a thing or two to say about that, so we'll find out. I was saying to everyone earlier on the Discord, we ought to open up the Dory debrief as a podcast, where he just picks on all the racers who haven't done compliant things when it comes to racing. So the driver's out on track at the moment, getting a little bit of a warm up before things get underway. 19 drivers on the grid today. We've got 19 in the server right now, so it's good that everyone's come back along. They haven't gone away crying under their pillow for the amount of frustration this track and these cars could provide. With Heike Navalov practicing his starts there coming out of the pits. That is something Navalov will feel has let him down tonight as the starts. There's nothing he can help, of course. The BMW just doesn't get off the line as well as the Audi can. But Navalov, starting on pole, will want the best out of starting pole in this feature race. But again, I mentioned this analogy earlier, but the tortoise and the hare situation, where the Audi certainly are the hare. They start off brilliant, but about 8 to 10 minutes into the race, they do drop off a little bit, and particularly at the end of the race, they really struggle as the four-wheel drive cars burn through the tyres much faster than these two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive cars can. So that'll be what's on the minds of these BMW and Mercedes drivers as William Foyle puts in a lap to get warmed up. That'll be where they've got the Audis beat. Tonga Guardia, who we're just watching there, he's had a really impressive night, finishing in the top 8 to both races so far, I believe. So Guardia, who's been a bit quiet in the championship so far, he had a disappointing evening at Norris Ring, but other than that, he's had plenty of top 10 finish. Certainly a top 10 in the championship on the cards for the Argentinian. But we're about to get into the final race of the night. So far, our feature race winners this season has been William Foyle, William Foyle, William Foyle, and can you guess who won the fourth? No, it wasn't William Foyle, it was Alex Ward, who's not racing tonight. So the odds on the ponies tonight are definitely towards William Foyle, but we'll see how they get on. Let us know in the comments who's going to win this feature race here, the Crest Autosport Raceroom League's DTM 92 Round 5 at Autodrom Most. As mentioned earlier, my name's Alex Everett of Crest Autosport. Welcome to the broadcast. Do subscribe and like all our channels, if you'd be so kind. And hopefully you enjoy this 30-minute feature race coming up right now. Heike Navalov starts on pole position. Alongside him is Alex Foyle. Lights are red. Away we go, and it's a jump start for Madsby Pedersen at the back there, but actually Navalov gets away fairly decent considering he's against the Audis. Alex Foyle does inevitably gain to the lead, and ahead of Navalov goes Jeff Perkis, but will Navalov hang on? Round the outside of Jeff Perkis he goes, going into turn 1. Look at all these cars bunch up, but they're all getting through fairly safe and sound, unless someone gets turned around. It very nearly happened to Jakobsen there, but they all get through very safe and sound. Big sigh of relief for the admins. As Foyle takes the lead early on here. Jamie Dory up to 4th place. He's got himself ahead of William Foyle. Good, promising start for the Mustangs here. Scott McLean, who usually is lightning off the start, has only managed 7th at the moment. But going into the hairpin, Alex Foyle comes out, not as leader, as Jeff Perkis has slipped ahead. And into the lead goes Jeff Perkis here at Most on lap 1. Jamie Dory has got himself into 3rd place, just ahead of Navalov. Yes, he has. He completes the move on the Swedish driver. What a start for Jamie Dory this has been. Ola Jansson is there in 6th, guarding off from Scott McLean and Tonga Guardia. gets on a watch of the most exciting car on the track at the moment. Jamie Dory making his way towards Alex Foyle straight away. Look at Jeff Perkis blistering away at the front here. Now he's the one who's been pitting all the time this season in all the feature races. Maybe that's his plan. Get out as far as front as possible and try and make up positions when he has to pit later, if he pits later. And Alex Foyle went very wide coming through turn 20 there into turn 21. Jamie Dory all over the rear of the Audi, as is the Beamer on the Mustang of Heike Navalov. Down the straight we go. Jamie Dory with the much more powerful Mustang will try the inside of Alex Foyle going into the chicane. Here we go. Oh, please don't do this, Raceroom. Into the corner we go, and it was much later on the brakes from Alex Foyle. He'll have the inside for turn 2. The undercut will be attempted from Jamie Dory, but he had Navalov on his inside. Move not completed by Jamie Dory. He remains in 3rd place. But he'll try the outside, much more powerful, and he's able to get alongside Alex Foyle, braking into the left-hander here. He gets in front, does complete the move eventually. Granted, a little bit delayed, and Alex Foyle took a bit of the gravel there and has had to slow down, and he loses loads of positions. 3 positions, nearly 4 maybe. Oh, and there's a Mercedes getting loose at the back there. I think that was Tonga Guardia. It was. He gets himself in shape, but lost a few positions there. He's down to 9th place, and he's got Tor Øyvind Andersen right behind him there. William Foyle up to 4th, started 3rd, but has lost out to Jamie Dory and Jeff Perkis. And look at Jamie Dory, what a race so far he's having. And Jeff Perkis absolutely flying, nearly 4 seconds clear at the front there. What a start for him. But Jamie Dory might be able to reel him in. He seems to have closed in a few tenths in the last few seconds, in fact. Jamie Dory in a very powerful Mustang, definitely hooking it up very well here on this track. Looking back to Scott McLean right behind Alex Foyle. Alex Foyle who got himself into the lead but lost out to it. With Jamie Dory passing him, he got it onto the gravel a bit too much. The Mercedes side by side of Tonga Guardia and Ian Deeney. Deeney, the man with no luck, it seems. Might his luck change in this race? We'll find out as it goes on. But Tonga Guardia gets his way past Alex Foyle. What is going on with Alex Foyle? He's really, really losing out in this race so far. Feature races haven't been his thing this season, but this is just not working at all for him as we complete lap 2 here at Most. Staying on board with Alex Foyle. Oh, very late on the brakes, and that's Scott McLean at the front, towards the front there, getting real out of shape through the chicane, and that'll put Tonga Guardia, his teammate, alongside him. He says privateer for Tonga Guardia, but he is a Crest Autosport driver. Into the small chicane we go, and Tonga slots back in behind Scott McLean. Deeney looking to capitalise, still all over the rear of the fellow green livery of Guardia. Cammy McPhail back there in 11th, making his way into 10th by the looks of it. He's had a bad night so far as Cammy, and got a bit out of shape on the grass there. Andy Withers is in 12th place. I thought he wasn't racing in this feature race, but he has joined in. Good on him. Decides to give it a go. Oh, and Tor Øyvind Andersen battling with him, went a bit wide and on the gravel, loses positions to 14th to Petter Nystrom in the Tic Tac livery ahead of him, who we haven't mentioned much tonight, but making progress up the field so far in this race. Alex Foyle was in the lead 2 laps ago, would you believe? Is just plummeting down the standings here, and look back there, Cammy McPhail battling with Ben Sisko still. He'll get himself into 10th place. Brilliant opening to this race from Cameron McPhail, who I think started 16th. Brilliant. We'll see how he gets on later on. Let's get a bit of a sit rep up front, as Jamie Dory hasn't closed in any more to Jeff Perkis, but is not letting him get away, and that's the crucial thing, as the Audi will tail off as the race moves on into the 2nd, 3rd. Navalov has been real good tonight. He'll certainly feel a win is up for grabs tonight if he can stay with or potentially catch William Foyle. And I've got Tonga Guardia must have spun coming out the chicane. He's dropped to 14th. What was looking like a pretty good night for the Argentinian has just slipped away as he slips down the order, unfortunately for him. Now Ben Sisko's up to 10th place. I believe he started 19th, so what a start this has been from him in the Audi power, so it's probably got him off the line pretty decently. But he's got Andy Withers, the man who was battling for the win in race 2, right behind him. who'll be looking to get past the Jamaican representant. Here we go, he's alongside, coming up the hill. And Frank Tennant much later on the brakes than Withers, but a bit too late. Withers gets the undercut and is able to get past on the next corner. Withers also runs wide there. Cisco's back alongside. I keep calling him Tennant and Cisco. He's got two names he likes to be referred to as. But Withers does complete the move eventually. Ian Deeney has caught up to the back of Scott McLean. Much better race so far from Ian Deeney. Touch wood, touch wood. A man who has had no luck this season, but championship status so far, I believe, with drop rounds applied, excluding this round, counting only up to the fourth round 2 weeks ago, Ian Deeney would be third in the championship. So his luck has got him somewhere. And look at this Tor Øyvind Danson on the inside of the Tic Tac livery. Why, Raceroom? Why you do this? And he makes the move and completes the move on Petter Nystrom in the Tic Tac livery. Up to 12th goes Tor Øyvind Danson, who was in 12th some moments ago, earlier on in the race, but now making his way back up. Cameron McPhail has caught up to the back of Alex Foyle, who is really struggling there. Might Alex Foyle have damage on that car? He's really struggling. You can see through that chicane there. He's just not able to keep it close to the apex. Understeering everywhere. Cameron McPhail all over the rear of him. May well get past him soon. We'll find out. Let's stay with this battle just for the time being. We'll keep an eye on everything else going on as best as I can. Through the right-hander, one of the best corners on Raceroom in my opinion. That right-hander with the such curb on the inside and the green runoff. But look at this, McPhail trying the inside of Alex Foyle. Not able to get it just yet, but we'll try again. He stays onto the outside. Hangs on to the outside. He might not have it for the next corner. No, he doesn't. He's also got Ben Cisco all over his rear. Got to be real careful, does Ben, on the back of this battle. Cameron McPhail will try another corner. Oh, and there's a wide running Audi in the back there. I think that's no, it's not. I couldn't figure out who that was. That might have been Ben Cisco, actually. It's Andy Withers on the back of this train here as Alex Foyle has been taken by Cameron McPhail. Running wide on turn 20, lost position in the 21 corner to Andy Withers. Up to 8th is Cameron McPhail, one of the biggest movers. Let's just remind myself of where he started. 14th in actual fact, so a big mover is Cameron McPhail. But Alex Foyle has just gone to tatters. He was leading. He was leading earlier on in the race, and he's now in 10th. In the battle for 6th, Andy Withers, Ian Deeney still behind Scott McLean. So now we're going into the second third of the race as Ian Deeney, shoves it up the inside of Scott McLean. McLean probably didn't even know he was there. It was that sudden, but McLean drives away. Deeney presumably not happy. You'd probably say he had the inside. Didn't have the inside for very long though. I'm sure it's something for them to have fisticuffs about after the race. But that's what it looked like from our point of view, I'm afraid, Ian. William Foyle real close to the rear of Navalov. William Foyle will not be pleased with what he can see ahead of him as Jamie Dory just drives away into the distance, as does Jeff Perkis, who has opened up a further 6/10 ahead of Jamie Dory. So brilliant so far from Jeff Perkis. We'll see if we can hang on to it. William Foyle in 4th place at the moment. His record of feature race wins, the ones that he's finished, might end tonight. Real TK, his night gone from bad from worse to worse as he went wider. I think that was the chicane, the opening chicane of the track. But we're back with William Foyle now. 7.5 seconds down from the Audi, but just a few tenths behind Navalov. And he'll try to catch back up and pass him. This is the battle for 10th. Alex Foyle anyway, has been caught by another driver. And look at this big lunge from the Mercedes of Tor Øyvind Danson. This is a crack at the top 10 for him. Tries the undercut. There is something not right with that Audi of Alex Foyle. We didn't see him hit anything. That's the thing. We saw him run wide and that was it. Not really sure what's going on with Alex Foyle right now. It's Tor Øyvind Danson still trying moves here and there. Might he go for the inside, going into the hairpin here? No, he doesn't. Alex Foyle hangs on to it as best he can, and he's just understeering coming out the hairpin, and that's allowed the undercut from Anderson here. One of two Oyvind Andersons here. This is Oyvind Anderson's son, I believe. And Foyle back ahead of the Mercedes. Oh, a little bit out of shape. Took a bit too much curve on the inside. Did that Mercedes then. And you got Tonga Guardia battling with Ben Cisco right behind them as well. Oh, Cisco turns across real early on the Argentinian. But he hangs on and takes the position. Does Tonga. He probably won't be happy with the way Ben was battling there. But carries on nonetheless and tries the inside straight away for Oyvind Anderson. Doesn't make it just yet. But is trying to make up positions as best he can. Is Guardia. And Oyvind Anderson up the inside of Alex Foyle, as we saw there. That's a real easy move for anyone to make on Alex Foyle right now. He just can't seem to get to grips with the car in Sector 3 with the damage it probably has. See if I can find out if there is any damage on his car. So Alex Foyle, it doesn't say he has any damage on his car, which is rather odd, because it's not behaving right. Gotta say. But we're nearing the halfway point of the race, and Jeff Perkins out in the lead. The Audi hasn't won a feature race yet. It's won many sprint races, but no feature races, as the tyres just degrade so quickly on that Audi. But he's nearly 4.5 seconds clear of the Mustang. But that Audi will tail off towards the end. But maybe this is Jeff Perkins' plan. Get as big a lead as he can. And when the tyres start to die off, he can nurse it to the end and stay in the lead. That's probably his plan. We'll see. Looking to Ola Jansson, who's got William Foyle ahead of him, who's dropped off a little bit from Heike and Navalov. Jansson has caught up a little bit to the Brit. And there's a swap of positions as Deeney is alongside Scott McLean. It wasn't a swap of positions, but it's a battle between these two again. Much later on the brakes is Ian Deeney. He tries the outside of turn 20. And McLean hangs on, but has he shot into the pits? I think McLean, yes, he has gone into the pits. So he's decided to take on tyres, but he's going very, very slowly. That's not where the pit limiter takes effect. What's going on with Scott here? This is very, very slow, and this will cost him a lot of positions. That's where the limiter starts, to my understanding. But Scott, being the first of those who dare to pit. Up into 10th now is Tonga Guardia. Big late break going into the chicane here. And he's able to get stopped in time. Oyvind Anderson will battle back on his fellow Mercedes driver. Oh, and Guardia so twitchy coming out of the corner, but hangs on to it. Up to 9th and back into the top 10. We might say in the last 3 corners for Tonga Guardia. Alex Foyle is down to as far as 11th now. Scott McLean is in the pits. A big risk from him. Usually it's this man who's been risking the pit strategy. Here's Jeff Perkins, 4 seconds clear of Jamie Dory still. Jamie's reeled it in a little bit on this lap. Who is just under 3 seconds ahead of Heike and Navalov here. Who is a further 2 and a bit seconds clear of William Foyle in 4th place. Ola Jansson there behind him in the Mercedes. Why do I keep calling it the Mercedes? It's the Mustang. Then it's the Mercedes of Ian Deeney, who got past Scott McLean, but Scott dived into the pits. Scott's back out on track, but Jeff Perkins, oh, this is it! Jeff Perkins has decided to pit. So all that effort of leading the race, and he's decided to pit and not risk staying out. Has he cost himself the feature race win? Has he? Oh, this is a bit daring yet again from Jeff Perkins. He did similar at Norris Ring 2 weeks ago. And into his stall he goes. Scott McLean, look how far back he is. And is that Roll TK ahead of him? Yes, it is. So Scott McLean is here. And the lead of the race now, Jamie Dory, is only a few corners back. Do we have a track map? No, we don't, unfortunately. But you could hear Scott McLean coming out the hairpin as Jamie Dory goes through it now. You'll just about see Scott McLean in the distance there over the horizon. But your new race leader, Jamie Dory, Dory debrief will be a little bit cheerful tonight if he can complete this right now. 6.5 seconds, 2.5 seconds clear of Heike Navalov in second place, who is nearly 3 seconds clear of William Foyle here in third place. Now, there's a couple of other drivers in the pits. Tor Øyvind Andersen and his father, I believe. Øyvind Andersen behind him in the stall there in the Opel. Jeff Perkis is back out on track. A much quicker pit stop than Scott McLean. Must have only taken on 2 tyres potentially. But he is miles clear of Scott McLean, who's only coming out the final corner now. But let's see what Jeff Perkis can do. He's 56 seconds down on the leader now. That's a time difference he's not going to make back on pace alone. The bluff that just keeps getting called for Jeff Perkis. But back for the battle. What is now third place. On a drive-through penalty for Tor Øyvind Andersen, exiting the pits and sped in the pits. So he'll have to come in again, and that'll compromise his hard work so far in this race. There's a couple of positions being swapped. I can see somewhere on the standings, but can't work out where. But we're looking at the battle for what's now 9th place. Alex Foyle and we got to look at it as William Foyle has dropped behind Jansson. Something's happened to Foyle. Yeah, he has dropped behind Jansson when he was not far behind Navalov. So William Foyle might have gone for a spin in the opening chicane there. Again, sorry we can't provide replays, but Raceroom just doesn't for us. And sometimes the auto director can't keep up. Andy Withers, another Audi, has gone into the pits. They're all deciding to take on tyres. Jeff Perkis makes his way past Mr. Withers. Scott McLean is approaching the final 2 corners now as Andy Withers stays in the pits. But this is the leading driver on the pit strategy. It's Jeff Perkis. Gained more than a second on Jamie Dory in that last lap, but it's still not going to be enough. This is our leader. Oh, there's a drive-through penalty for Andy Withers, speeding in the pit lane, and I think he's going to abort his race. Is he? No, he's not. Yes, he. Oh, can't work it out. But taking an excursion through the chicane, it hasn't quite worked. Frustrating times for Andy Withers there. Oh dear, he won't want to watch that after. So Alex Foyle, the man we believe has damage on his car. Something wrong with it as he's losing to Ben Sisko. And he's got Madsby Pedersen behind him. I think that might be... I can't work out who that was behind Alex Foyle. I think it was Gabriel Lopez, actually, who has probably been lapped as he's in 19th place. William Foyle, something happened to him on a previous lap, or the previous lap, as he drops behind Jansson. It's been a brilliant, brilliant couple of meetings from the Mustang so far, as Jansson got third place in the feature race at Norris Ring. Jamie Dory didn't do so well at Norris Ring, but got pole position there. But Alex Ward was also in a Mustang, not taking part in tonight's race, sadly, is Mr. Ward, but he won the feature race. So the Mustang really coming to life in recent events, being the most powerful. If you can, as I said many times in describing these guys, if you can master driving the Mustang, it's the most rewarding. But you have got to be so precise and delicate and careful with that Mustang. But put all that together, it's very rewarding. William Foyle will not be worried so much that he's not winning this feature race here. He's got 2 championship rivals ahead of him in Navalov and Jansson, but he will not drop too many points from them. As much as 8 points to Navalov, 4 points to Jansson, which he put past him in the earlier sprint races, did William Foyle. And of course, with drop rounds being implemented after tonight, it has been worked out that William Foyle will be something like 90 points clear in the championship. Don't quote me on that, it might be different. But Ian Deeney reeling in William Foyle. Ian Deeney's had a really good feature race here. At last his luck has changed so far, touch wood. And someone else to credit as well. Cameron McPhail has been brilliant tonight in this feature race as well. He had a bit of bad luck in heats 1 and 2 with a couple of spins, but a 6th place right now for him, very impressive. second highest of the BMWs. Now a quick sit rep on Jeff Purkis, who's first of the drivers who pitted, ragging a lot out of that car. I was going to say a naughty word then, I shan't. 11th place, reeling in 10th place, so he'll get himself back into the top 10, which is good points for himself. A drive-through penalty I saw there for Oyvind Andersen speeding in the pit lane. As he exits there, Jeff Purkis just goes past him now. But Jeff is faster than Jamie Dory, but it's nothing that's going to threaten most of the drivers in front of him. He's just hoping that drivers will maybe make mistakes or do come in the pits. As we are in the final third of this race now. At this point, most drivers will decide to stay out. So this is the rather dispersed battle for third between Jansson, Foyle and the driver we're watching now, Dini. Dini will try his desperate most, trying to catch up with William Foyle here. Dini, I think after drop rounds are applied, as I mentioned earlier, might be one in contention for second in the championship. Which we'll find out. If you follow our page, Crest Autosport on Facebook, you will find out the championship results not long after this race concludes. Well, actually, no, I tell a lie. It will be published tomorrow morning around about 9 o'clock. That's when you'll find out the championship status coming out of the penultimate round here, where in 3 weeks' time will be the final round at the Nordschleife. That was Jakobsen letting by Jeff Purkis on fresh rubber. And into the top 10 goes Jeff Purkis. Oh, and sadly Frank Tennant just let us know in the comments here he had a disqualification for speeding in the pit lane a bit too many times. Unlucky for him, who was having such a good race, in fact. Better luck next time, Mr. Tennant. Or Cisco as he is on the standings here. Ian Dini real close to William Foyle. It's not been William's race. I thought he'd be a bit better in this feature race here today, but not been his day thus far. Look how close Dini's getting to him. The battle of first between the Mercedes, and it's been William Foyle every time except for Norris Ring until now. Dini will try his patience on the championship leader ahead of him. But a good result in this race and a good result today, which have been top 10 finishes for Ian Dini, will be good for his championship. How will it compare to Navalov and Jansson? Not too sure, but we'll find out. As we said, tomorrow morning when we do publish the results on our Crest Autosport Facebook page. Jamie Dory still out in front, only 2 seconds clear of Navalov. Really coming into his own at this point in the race. He's reeled in Jamie Dory by a second in the last 15 minutes or so. Might he be able to pull him in more? But Navalov has had a real good night. And it hasn't ended just yet. He's still got one position to gain if he can gain it, with 5.5 minutes to go for the Swedish driver. Back with the battle for fourth. He dropped away a little bit on that lap, and this is Jeff Purkis, who's caught up to Alex Foyle. That's how slow Alex Foyle's car anyway is in this race. It's Jeff Purkis, who's pitted, has caught up to him, and he'll try to get past as soon as possible. Jeff Purkis in a big hurry to get by and into 8th place. As he does so, completes the move rather comprehensively. And Ian Dini is doing very well in sectors 2 and 3. Catches up a little bit to the back of William Foyle. Oh, very loose coming out of turn 21 there. The tyres real loose on that Mercedes now as we descend into the final part of the race here. Only a few more laps remaining. William Foyle will have that to worry about, those tyres, as well as that big green Mercedes in his rear view mirror. But this is the point in the race where drivers start to I'll say behave when it comes to battling. Oh, as off is Jeff Perkis. Of all people, Jeff Perkis has gone off. They're pushing a little bit too hard. And that's dropped into 10th place. Jeff Perkis just can't get the feature races right in that Audi this season. He'll be glad to get rid of it, I'm sure. But not a good night for Jeff yet again. He was leading much of this race. Two drivers that are real surprise that came out fighting early on have really paid the price later on in this race. Navalov is reeling in Jamie Dory, and it's rather appropriate that we've now switched to Heike Navalov. He's now within a second of Jamie Dory. Has pulled it in from a 3-second gap to now a 6/10 gap with only 3 minutes to go, which would be around about 2 laps remaining for these two drivers. Jamie Dory comes to the inside to break the slipstream of the BMW. It'll be a 2-lap shootout between these two. Into the chicane. It certainly seems Navalov has got a lot more grip at this point in the race than Jamie Dory ahead of him. But Navalov will not have that much grip either. Granted, a little bit more, but making moves at this point in the race is so risky, particularly on this track. Into the hairpin. Now he's got a bit of slipstream. There's a bit of dirty air ahead of him. That might not help in that rear-wheel drive machine on such a roller coaster of a circuit. Jamie Dory using all the track and more to try and get as much as he can out of that Mustang. Jamie Dory, who's had sporadic appearances this season, will want a win to his name. He had such bad luck at Norrisring 2 weeks ago. He had bad luck in race 2 here today. Is this his moment? His moment of relief, his moment of eureka? But Navalov hasn't had a win to his name this season. Rather surprising, as he's had a lot of good results. He's been at the front fighting, and today has been one of the most notable performances from Navalov. And with that, I have decided to give him the GP Box Driver of the Day award. Thoroughly deserved of the Swedish driver tonight. But the final lap will begin for Jamie Dory and Navalov. The battle for first and second here. It was a big battle between Alex Ward and Alex Foyle at Norrisring 2 weeks ago. It's now Dory and Navalov. You've got to say it's advantage Dory, as there's quite a gap between the two. Look how late Navalov was on the brakes there. Oh, and Jamie Dory's a bit wide coming out the chicane there. Navalov taking much deeper lines. A little bit of a slowdown penalty for Navalov coming out the chicane. I don't think that's bothered him too much, as it's usually a slowdown you can get rid of quite quickly. Or was it, as he's now 8/10 down from 5 at the beginning of that straight there. Into the chicane we go. Into the hairpin. Now Jamie Dory takes a deeper line. Navalov gets the back end out. Within half a second now is Navalov. There's not many more opportunities to go. Jamie Dory, the next gen racing driver, whose series on next gen, the iRacing Legends series, starts tomorrow, broadcasted by us, so do tune in to watch that around about this time tomorrow. Into the final sector we approach. Just a few more corners for Jamie Dory. He's got half a second cushion, not much at all, but not many more overtaking opportunities as long as he hooks up these final few corners. Only 2 to go now for Jamie Dory. Look how close Navalov is getting. Approaching turn 20 now. First right-hander. Navalov is so close, and look at that! He's going to try the inside on turn 21. No, he hasn't got enough room to get the inside. Coming out of turn 21 we go. It's a battle to the end. Navalov goes wide. Jamie Dory will have the power to get across the line in first place. Brilliant win there for Jamie Dory. His debut win of the season and the Crest Autosport Raceroom Leagues. Navalov, valiantly our driver of the day, takes second place. What a battle from them two. Donut's already started for the Mustang. And another Mustang gets on the podium. Ola Jansson takes third place ahead of William Foyle in fourth place, who hangs on ahead of Ian Deeney. Cameron McPhail will come across the line in 6th place. What a race this has been for him. He'll be chuffed to bits with that. He crosses the line very shortly. 6th place for Cameron. Tonga Guardia is coming towards the finish now, limping that Mercedes home. Through the final corner he goes. And Jamie Dory, our race winner, will remind you, doing donuts on there. I better give him his light and his shining light in armour and all that. The Albino Gorilla, I've heard his nickname is. Jeff Perkins finishes 8th place, taking a risk on the final, halfway through the race to take on tyres. Gets 8th, still a good finish for the Audi driver. In fact, the highest Audi driver in the standings, which says a lot. Alexander Jakobsen, 9th for him. Peter Nystrom will be pleased. He comes through in 10th place. Scott McLean struggled in the pits earlier. He'll take 11th. Andy Withers has finished 12th. Tor Øyvind Andersen finished 13th. Jürgen Masby Pedersen 14th. 15th was Roll TK. Øyvind Andersen finished in 16th in the lone Opel. Gabriel Lopez in 17th. Alexander Foyle in 18th. And there's our standings. Ben Sisko was disqualified. Alex Foyle did not finish, so there'll be no points for Alex Foyle and Gabriel Lopez. Jamie Dory is our winner, though. Our driver of the day and 2nd place in the feature race goes to Navalov. His teammate, Jansson, finished 3rd. And championship leader, presumably after today, still was William Foyle. That has been... We'll just switch over to a new screen. That has been the Crest Autosport Raceroom League's DTM 92 Championship here at Most. Thank you very much for watching. Do like, subscribe to the channel. Next time, in 1 week's time, is the final round of the DTM 2020s. 1 week today, and 1 week from now, we'll have a champion. It is all concluding at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit on the 23rd of March, and then in 3 weeks from today will be the final round of the overall championship and the 92s at the Nordschleife. I've been Alex Everett, this has been Crest Autosport. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in 1 week's time. Good night.